The technician grabbed my wrist and pulled me behind the counter. His face went white. Get out of the house immediately. If you've ever had that split second where your stomach drops and your brain can't catch up, you'll know exactly what I felt. It was a Tuesday afternoon in suburban Ohio, the kind of day that's supposed to be boring. Grocery list, laundry, a quick errand. My daughter-in-law's phone wouldn't charge, so I offered to take it in while she stayed home with the baby. Her name is Jessica. My son is Michael. And I'm Emily, 56, the helpful mother-in-law who brings casseroles and bites her tongue even when she shouldn't. The shop was one of those small places in a strip mall, wedged between a nail salon and a vape store. Bright LED sign, a bell on the door, cases of shiny phones behind glass. It smelled like plastic and rubbing alcohol. The guy behind the counter, Evan, looked up and smiled like he'd seen me before. That alone was strange. Not me before. Him seeing Jessica before. Jessica had handed me her phone that morning like it was nothing. It's probably just the charger, she said, not making eye contact. Her voice was too casual, like she was trying to sound normal. I'd noticed little things for weeks. A locked screen even when she went to shower. A sudden habit of taking calls in the garage. Her laughter at texts she'd never share. But I told myself not to be that mother-in-law. Not the one who assumes the worst. So I drove to the repair shop with the phone in my purse, thinking I was doing a good deed. Evan took the phone, turned it over, and his smile flickered, like a light bulb burning out. Yo, you Jessica's? My mother-in-law, I said. Emily, it won't charge. She has a baby. She's exhausted. I'm just helping. He nodded too fast. Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. He plugged it into something behind the counter, not a normal cable. Some kind of device that made the screen flash. His fingers moved fast, practiced, like he'd done this exact thing before. Then his eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. He leaned closer to the screen, like he didn't trust what he was seeing. And suddenly, all the color drained from his face. He looked up at me, and I swear to God, his voice changed. Not salesman-friendly anymore. Not polite. It was low and agent, like he was warning me about a tornado. He said, glancing toward the front windows like he expected someone to walk in. Do you live with her? My heart stuttered. No. She lives with my son. Why? Is it the battery? He didn't answer that. He came out from behind the counter, wiped his palms on his jeans, and then grabbed my wrist with a grip that was too tight to be casual. He pulled me into the little hallway that led to the back room, away from the other customers. I tried to laugh, because that's what you do when you're scared and you don't want to seem dramatic. Sir, you're scaring me. He stared right into my eyes. I am trying to scare you, he said, because you're not understanding. This is serious. My mouth went dry. What is? He swallowed hard. Cancel the cards. Change every password. And when you leave here, don't go home. Don't even stop at home. My knees went weak. Why would I? He held the phone up between us, screen facing me, like it was a weapon. Because if you go home, he whispered, you might walk into something you can't walk back out of. Before I continue, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you love revenge stories like this, hit like and subscribe. It means everything. Okay, listen. I didn't run at first. I stood there like an idiot, blinking at him, waiting for the normal explanation. Malware, a scam, stolen credit cards, something that made sense. But Evan didn't talk like it was a virus. He talked like it was a trap. He tapped the screen twice and turned it toward me. I saw a list of apps I'd never heard of, hidden folders, strange icons, and then a message thread with a name that made my blood turn icy. Michael, work phone. My son. My stomach flipped. That's my son's name. Evan's eyes didn't leave mine. I know, he said. That's why you need to leave right now. Then he scrolled down, and I saw the last message Jessica had sent. It wasn't a heart emoji. It wasn't a pick up milk. It was a single sentence that made me forget how to breathe. Tonight, after she drops the phone off, We do it. And right under that was a photo of my house, taken from the street, in the dark, like someone had been watching it. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't about a broken charger. This was about something Jessica and someone else were planning, something they thought I'd never see. And Evan, he wasn't warning me about a phone. He was warning me about what was waiting at my front door. Before that day, my life wasn't dramatic. It was predictable, quiet, mostly, and I liked it that way. I lived alone in the same two-story house my husband and I bought 30 years ago. After he passed, I downsized everything except my habits. Morning coffee by the window, evening news at 6, Sundays with Michael, Jessica, and the baby if they weren't too busy. Michael was my only child, a good man, steady, loyal to a fault. He worked in logistics for a regional company, long hours, decent pay. The kind of man who believed that if he just worked harder, everything would eventually smooth out. Jessica came into our lives 5 years ago. She was charming at first. Smart, pretty, quick with compliments. She called me Mom almost immediately, which should have warmed my heart, but somehow felt rehearsed. After the baby was born, things shifted. She stopped asking for advice and started issuing boundaries. No photos online. No stopping by unannounced. Please text before calling. All reasonable on the surface, but the tone was sharp, defensive. Michael brushed it off. She's just tired, Mom. New moms go through phases. I wanted to believe that. They moved into my house temporarily after the baby, just until they got back on their feet. That temporary situation turned into 8 months. Jessica insisted it made sense financially. Michael agreed. I agreed too, because I didn't want to be alone, and because I loved having my son under the same roof again. But living together stripped away the illusion. Jessica guarded her phone like it was an extension of her body. If she left it on the counter and realized it, she'd rush back like she'd forgotten a child. Screen always down. Notifications silenced. Password changed every few weeks. Once, I jokingly said, "What's on there? The nuclear codes?" She didn't laugh. She snatched it up and said, "Privacy is important," like it was a warning. There were other things. Packages delivered while Michael was at work. She'd grab them before I could even see the label. Late-night walks around the block that lasted 4 to 5 minutes. The baby monitor mysteriously unplugged more than once. And then there were the calls. She'd step into the garage, close the door, and whisper. Not argue. Whisper. The kind of whisper that means you don't want anyone to hear, not even the walls. I tried asking Michael about it once. Gently. Over dinner. "She seems stressed," I said carefully. "Is everything okay between you two?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, just money stuff. You know how it is." But I didn't know how it was. And this wasn't that. The biggest red flag came 3 nights before the phone repair. I woke up around 2 a.m. to get water. As I passed the hallway, I noticed the front door wasn't fully closed. Just cracked. The chain undone. I froze. I checked the living room. Empty. The kitchen. Empty. Then I heard the soft click of the garage door opening. Jessica slipped inside, shoes in hand, hair pulled back like she'd been trying not to be recognized. When she saw me standing there, she jumped. "Oh, Emily, you scared me." I looked past her. "Where were you?" She didn't miss a beat. Just needed air. The baby wouldn't settle. At 2 in the morning. Outside. Without a phone in her hand. I nodded like I believed her. But something inside me shifted. Like a quiet alarm finally turned on. The next morning, her phone stopped charging. She handed it to me too quickly. Wouldn't meet my eyes. "Can you take it in today?" she asked. "I really need it fixed." And now, standing in that repair shop hallway, see my son's name tied to secret messages and a photo of my house taken in the dark. All those little moments snapped into place. This wasn't stress. This wasn't privacy. This was planning. And the worst part? I still didn't know who Jessica was planning with. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I couldn't even move. I just stared at the phone in Evan's hand like it was about to explode. That can't be what it looks like, I said, even though my voice had already betrayed me. It sounded thin, weak, like I was trying to convince myself, not him. Evan exhaled slowly. I was hoping you'd say that, he replied, because I was hoping I was wrong. He turned the phone back toward himself and scrolled. Fast, like he didn't want me to see everything all at once. What exactly are you seeing? I asked. He hesitated. Then he said, I'm seeing encrypted messaging apps hidden inside a fake calculator. I'm seeing GPS tracking permissions that don't make sense. I'm seeing banking access that's mirrored to another device. My heart started pounding in my ears. Mirrored. Yes, he said, meaning someone else can see what she sees. In real time. My legs felt like they might give out. Someone else like my son. Evan shook his head immediately. No, not him. He wouldn't need this level of secrecy. He paused, then added quietly, and he wouldn't photograph his own house from across the street. That's when the denial cracked. I leaned against the wall because the hallway suddenly felt too narrow, too tight, like the air had been sucked out. Why would she do this? I whispered. She lives there. Her baby sleeps there. Evan looked genuinely troubled. People plan strange things when they think they are smarter than everyone else. He tapped the screen again. There's more. But before I show you, I need to ask something. What? I snapped. Fear was turning into anger now, sharp and hot. Does anyone else in that house have access to your finances? He asked. I swallowed. My son is on my emergency card. Jessica isn't. Evan nodded. Then I'm going to say this very clearly. Whatever is happening, you weren't supposed to see this phone. And now that you have, you need to assume you're part of the equation. That sentence hit harder than anything else. Part of the equation, I repeated. Meaning what? Meaning, he said carefully, plans change when variables change. And right now, you're a variable. He handed me the phone. I can't legally keep it, he continued. But I can show you enough so you understand why I said what I said. He opened one last thread. No name this time. Just a string of numbers. The messages weren't long. They didn't need to be. Is she suspicious? Not yet. She's taking the phone today. Yes. Good. Once that's done, we move. My throat closed. Move where? Evan didn't answer. He just scrolled. There was a checklist. Literally a checklist. Dates. Times. Notes. Emily, routine predictable. Michael, gone until 7:30 p.m. house alarm, old model. Cameras, front only. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't vague. This wasn't emotional drama or cheating. This was surveillance. This is illegal, I whispered. Yes, Evan said. And dangerous. I handed the phone back like it burned my skin. What do I do? For now. He leaned closer. You act normal. You don't confront her. You don't call your son yet. My eyes snapped to his. Why not? Because if she knows you've seen this, he said, she'll assume you've seen everything. I nodded slowly, my brain racing. Okay. So I take the phone back. I tell her it needs parts. No, he interrupted. You don't take the phone back. I frowned. What? You leave it here, he said. I'll tell her it needs a few days. That buys you time. Time for what? He must have read the question on my face because he added, time to watch, time to listen, time to find out who the other person is. My hands shook. I don't know if I can pretend. You already have, he said gently, for months. That hurt because it was true. I left the shop without the phone, drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, didn't go home. When I finally parked, I sat there staring at my steering wheel, replaying every moment I'd brushed off, every excuse I'd accepted. Jessica wasn't just hiding something. She was waiting for something. And I was running out of time to figure out what it was before she decided I was in the way. I didn't go home that night. I told myself it was because I needed space to think, but the truth was uglier. I was afraid. Afraid that if I walked back into that house, I'd see it differently. Afraid that every creak of the floor would sound like a countdown. I parked at a 24-hour diner off the highway and sat in my car for nearly an hour before going inside. I ordered coffee I didn't drink and stared at the wall, replaying Evan's words over and over. You're part of the equation. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Jessica. Hey Mom, any update on the phone? I'm kind of panicking without its smiling face with open mouth and cold sweat. The emoji almost made me throw up. I forced myself to breathe and typed back slowly, carefully. Repair guy says it needs a part. Might be a couple days. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Reappeared. That's weird. He didn't say that last time. My fingers hovered. My pulse spiked. I'll check again tomorrow, I replied. Another pause. Okay. Thanks. No emoji that time. I drove to a cheap motel instead of home. Slept in my clothes. Barely slept at all. The next morning, I called Evan the moment the shop opened. She came by already, he said before I could even ask. 10 minutes after opening. My chest tightened. What did she say? That she needed the phone back. Today. She was pushy. I closed my eyes. Did she seem suspicious? She seemed nervous, he replied. That's different. Evan told me he'd copied what he could overnight. Screenshots, metadata, logs, enough to piece together a clearer picture. It's not just one person, he said quietly. There are at least 2 others involved. My hand went to my mouth. Involved in what? He hesitated, then said the word I hadn't allowed myself to think yet. Fraud. Identity theft. Possibly worse. The world tilted. He explained that Jessica's phone wasn't just spying, it was coordinating, tracking schedules, monitoring bank activity, sharing access, and the timeline suggested they were close to executing whatever they'd been planning. And Emily, he added, your name comes up a lot. I felt something inside me collapse. Why? Because you're the asset, he said. The house, the accounts, the predictability. I thanked him, hung up, and sat in silence. Then I did something I'd been avoiding. I called Michael. He answered on the second ring. Hey Mom, everything okay? I almost cried just hearing his voice. I need to ask you something, I said carefully, and I need you to answer honestly. Okay. Have you noticed anything strange about Jessica lately? A pause. Too long. She's been stressed, he said finally. Why? I took a risk. Has she asked about my finances? The house? Insurance? Another pause. Longer this time. She asked a few questions, he admitted. Said it was just planning for the future. I didn't think. Michael, I interrupted, my voice breaking. She's not planning for the future. She's planning around us. Silence. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying, I replied, that the phone I took in for repair isn't just broken. It's dangerous, and I think Jessica is involved in something that could ruin all of our lives. He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded hollow. Mom, I found something last week, he said. My heart slammed. What? A second phone, he confessed. Hidden in her car. Burner style. No contacts saved. I felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Because she said I was paranoid, he said quietly, and I wanted to believe her. That was it. That was the moment everything shattered. The woman living in my house, holding my grandchild, calling me Mom. She wasn't just lying. She was operating. I hung up with Michael and sat there shaking, finally allowing myself to feel it all. Fear, betrayal, grief, rage, crashing down at once. I had opened my home to her, and she had turned it into a target. By the time I wiped my eyes and stood up, one thing was clear. I wasn't confused anymore. I was being hunted, and I needed to know exactly how far Jessica was willing to go before she finished what she started. I didn't sleep that night either, but something else changed. The fear stopped shaking me. It settled, hardened, turned cold. By morning, I wasn't panicking anymore. I was thinking, if Jessica thought I was predictable, then that was my advantage. If she believed I was clueless, kind, passive Emily, then I could stay invisible while I figured out the truth. I called Michael and told him one thing very clearly. Do not confront her. Not yet. He argued at first. Of course he did. He wanted answers. Wanted to believe there was some explanation that didn't end in handcuffs or heartbreak. There isn't, I said flatly. And if she knows we're onto her, she'll disappear. Or Weiss, speed things up. That scared him into silence. So we planned. Quietly. Carefully. First, I moved my money. Every account. Every card. Everything tied to my name. I froze lines of credit she didn't even know existed. Changed passwords she'd never guess. Added two-factor authentication to things I didn't even remember opening. I didn't tell her I was doing any of it. I acted normal. I went home that afternoon with groceries like nothing had happened. Jessica smiled too brightly when she saw me. Asked about the phone again. Still waiting on the part, I said, meeting her eyes this time. She looked away first. Good. That night, I watched her instead of avoiding her. The way she checked the windows before bed. The way she muted the TV when she thought no one was listening. The way she flinched when Michael's phone buzzed. She was waiting for something too. The next step was information. Michael quietly installed a temporary camera in the garage, angled toward the driveway. I pretended not to notice. Pretended not to see Jessica stiffen the first time she walked past it. I called my lawyer friend. Didn't explain everything, just enough to ask the right questions. About property. About power of attorney. About what happens when someone commits fraud from inside your home. Her silence on the other end of the line told me everything. Then Evan called. I found the other person, he said. My heart stopped. Who? A man named Brandon Cole, he replied. He's been flagged before. Financial scams, coercion, manipulation. He preys on women who feel overlooked. Jessica, he's been messaging her for over a year, Evan continued. Slow burn, emotional dependency, grooming, and recently, escalation. My hands clenched into fists. Is he nearby? Yes, he said. Too nearby. I thanked him and hung up. That was the moment I stopped feeling like a victim. Because now I knew this wasn't impulsive. This wasn't stress or postpartum confusion. This was deliberate. Jessica wasn't just betraying us. She was willing to destroy us. So I decided something. I wasn't going to expose her quietly. I wasn't going to beg her to explain. And I wasn't going to let her walk away clean. If she wanted to use my house as a stage, then I was going to make sure the final act happened under bright lights. And when it was over, everyone would know exactly who she really was. I chose the night carefully. Jessica thought she was in control. That was the key. She believed the phone delay was an inconvenience, not a threat. She believed Michael was still in denial. She believed I was still the same soft, accommodating woman who apologized too much. So I let her believe it. I cooked dinner like usual. Meatloaf, her favorite. I even packed leftovers into containers, humming while I worked. Normal, predictable, exactly what she expected. Michael came home late, just like always. Right on schedule. Jessica watched the clock more than the baby that night. I noticed it immediately. Every few minutes, her eyes flicked to her wrist, then to the front door, then to her phone-less hand like she could still feel it there. At 8:17 p.m., the garage camera pinged Michael's phone. A car had pulled into the driveway. Not Michael's, not mine. A black sedan. Engine still running. Jessica froze. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. I need to grab something from the garage. No, I said calmly. She stopped mid-step. Michael looked up. Mom. Sit down, Jessica, I repeated. My voice didn't shake. It's early. Her face drained of color. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her eyes were already darting toward the windows. Michael stood up now. Who's early? I picked up my phone and pressed play. Evan's voice filled the room. Calm. Clinical. Brandon Cole has a history of financial fraud and emotional manipulation. He often convinces his partners to surveil family members, gain access to assets, and create opportunities for control. Jessica let out a sound I'd never heard from her before. A sharp, panicked gasp. "What is this?" she snapped. "Why are you doing this?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. "You invited a predator into my house," I said. "You tracked my movements. You planned around my routines. And tonight," I gestured toward the door, "you were going to finish it." Michael turned to her, his face crumpling. "Jessica, tell me she's lying." She didn't answer him. Instead, she lunged for the door. Michael moved faster. He blocked her path, hands shaking. "Who is out there?" She screamed then. Actually screamed. "Move." That's when the knock came. 3 sharp raps. Not police. Not yet. I walked to the door myself. "Emily, don't," Michael said. "Oh, I will," I replied. "I've waited long enough." I opened the door. Brandon Cole stood there like he owned the place. Mid-30s, confident smile, eyes that scanned past me into the house, already calculating. "Evening," he said smoothly. "I'm here for Jessica." "No," I said. "You're here because you think this house is an opportunity." His smile faltered just slightly. "And you are?" he asked. "The homeowner," I replied. "The woman whose finances you tried to mirror. The variable you underestimated." Jessica sobbed behind me. "Brandon, stop." Michael stepped forward. "Get off my property." Brandon laughed. Actually laughed. "Buddy, you might want to ask your wife what she signed up for." That was my cue. I stepped aside. 2 police officers were standing just beyond the porch light. Brandon's face collapsed. "Brandon Cole," one officer said, "you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted coercion." They moved fast. Hands behind his back. Metal cuffs. No speech. No drama. Jessica dropped to her knees. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Michael stared at her like he was seeing a stranger. "You were going to rob my mother." She looked up at him, mascara streaked, voice hysterical. "I was trying to protect us. He said your mom had everything and she wouldn't miss it." That was the moment my heart broke completely. Not because she betrayed me, but because she justified it. The officers turned to Jessica next. "Jessica Miller," one said, "we need you to come with us." She screamed my name then. Not Mom. Not Emily. My name. Like I could still save her. I didn't move. As they led her out, she twisted back toward me, eyes wild. "You ruined everything." I met her gaze. "No," I said quietly. "You did. I just turned the lights on." The door closed. The house went silent. Michael sank onto the couch, hands covering his face. I sat beside him, put my arm around his shoulders like I did when he was a child. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have seen it." "So should I replied. "But we did something about it. That's what matters." Outside, the black sedan pulled away, this time with flashing lights behind it. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't dared to feel before. Relief. Justice had finally walked through my front door, and it wasn't leaving empty-handed. The house felt different after they left. Not quieter, just emptier. Like the air itself had been holding its breath for months and had finally exhaled. The baby monitor hummed softly from the nursery, the only sound reminding us that life was still moving forward. Michael didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. We sat at the kitchen table until dawn, untouched coffee growing cold between us, replaying everything. Every moment that suddenly made sense. Every excuse we'd accepted because the truth felt too ugly to confront. By morning, reality arrived in waves. Jessica was charged, not just as an accomplice, but as an active participant. Evidence from her phone, Evan's data logs, and Brandon's messages painted a picture she couldn't talk her way out of. Michael took the baby to stay with his sister that afternoon. He said he needed time to think, but I knew it was more than that. He needed space to grieve the woman he thought he married. The lawyers moved quickly. Protective orders, emergency custody, financial audits. My house was officially off limits to Jessica, and every account tied to my name was confirmed secure. The scariest part? The investigators told us how close we'd been. If I hadn't taken the phone in that day, if Evan hadn't recognized the signs, if I'd gone home instead of stopping at that diner. I don't let myself finish those sentences. Jessica tried to contact me from jail. Twice. I didn't answer. She sent a letter a week later. 6 pages. Apologies tangled with excuses. Blame spread thinly across everyone except herself. She said she was manipulated, that she was scared, that she never meant to hurt anyone. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I never opened. Some things don't deserve responses. Michael filed for divorce quietly. No announcements. No social media drama. Just paperwork and long, heavy silences. He blamed himself for a long time. For not protecting me. For not seeing the danger sooner. I reminded him of something my husband used to say. You can't guard against what you don't know exists. The house slowly became mine again. No whispered phone calls. No late night disappearances. No feeling like I was being watched in my own living room. I changed the locks. Updated the security system. Planted new flowers out front. Not because I had to, but because I wanted something new to grow where fear had lived. Neighbors asked questions. I kept my answers simple. Family stuff. It's handled. And it was. Months later, the case closed. Brandon pled guilty. Jessica accepted a deal that kept her from trial. Supervised visitation only. Mandatory counseling. A record she'd never fully outrun. Michael started smiling again. Slowly, carefully, like someone learning how to trust the ground under their feet. As for me, I stopped apologizing for my instincts. I stopped dismissing the voice that told me something was wrong. Because the truth is, I didn't lose my family that day. I protected it. And in doing so, I found something I didn't know I'd been missing all along. My power. People like to believe betrayal comes with warning sirens, loud arguments, obvious lies, clear villains. But that's not how it really happens. Most of the time, it slips in quietly, wrapped in familiarity, wearing a friendly face, sitting at your dinner table and calling you family. I've replayed everything 1,000 times since then. Not to torture myself, but to understand. To see where kindness crossed into blindness, where patience turned into permission. And here's what I learned. Trust is powerful, but unchecked trust can be dangerous. I trusted Jessica because I wanted peace. Because I didn't want to be that mother-in-law. Because I believed love meant giving the benefit of the doubt over and over again. What I didn't realize was that my silence made room for something ugly to grow. If there's one thing I want anyone listening to this to hear, it's this. Your instincts exist for a reason. That uneasy feeling you push down, that moment where something doesn't quite add up, that little voice that whispers pay attention. It's not paranoia. It's information. I also learned that strength doesn't always look like shouting or confrontation. Sometimes, strength looks like waiting, watching, preparing, making sure that when the truth comes out, it comes out clean and undeniable. I didn't destroy anyone's life. I refused to let mine be taken from me. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just clarity. Sometimes it's consequences. Sometimes it's walking away knowing you stood your ground and protected what mattered. And justice? Justice doesn't always feel triumphant in the moment. Sometimes it feels heavy, sad, final. But later, much later, it feels like peace. Today, my home feels safe again. My son is healing. My grandchild is protected. And I sleep through the night without wondering who's watching from the dark. I don't hate Jessica. I don't excuse her either. I simply see her clearly now. And clarity is something no one can ever take from me again. So if you're listening to this and something in your life feels off, don't ignore it. Ask questions. Protect yourself. Choose awareness over comfort. Because being kind should never mean being unguarded. And being quiet should never mean being powerless. Did you like my story? Please like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far this story travels. Sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is stop doubting herself and start trusting what she already knows.